March 9th, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Hannah here.
Sullivan here.
Grillo here.
Kavich here.
Kuzikowski here.
Oldani here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Okay, thank you all. Before we approve the minutes, I'm going to ask, Carrie, are you prepared to read in the notice of video conferencing, please?
Yes. The City of Oak Creek is authorized to hold this meeting remotely during the COVID-19 public health emergency under the March 16th and March 20th advisories from the Office of Open Government in the Wisconsin Department of Justice. Per the advisories, this meeting being conducted via Zoom video conference with telephone conferencing capabilities was duly noticed per the City of Oak Creek Municipal Code and statutory notice requirements more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Members of the public have been advised of the options for participation via direct mailing to property owners within 300 feet of a proposal, via the COVID-19 information page on the city's website, via social media, and via the information contained on the meeting agenda. This meeting may also be viewed at the city's YouTube page, the link for which was contained in all aforementioned notice methods. The meeting recording will also be accessible on the city's YouTube page within 48 hours. Plan commissioners and participants are initially muted upon joining the meeting. Plan commissioners and staff have the ability to mute and unmute their microphones throughout the meeting. Please mute at all times except for roll call, motions, voting, and when recognized by the chair. Roll call and voting will occur per the usual and customary procedures, starting from Plan commissioners' seating positions south to north in the Common Council chambers or as called on by the mayor. The chair will facilitate the questions and comments by calling on each Plan commissioner or by requesting the use of the raise hand function in the Zoom webinar control panel. Only speak once you've been recognized by the chair or moderator. Applicants, the representatives, and all other participants who wish to speak will be unmuted when there is a direct request for information from the Plan Commissioner staff, when the participant utilizes the raise hand function within the Zoom webinar control panel and the moderator verbally indicates that they are unmuted, when a phone participant dials *9 to indicate that they wish to speak and the moderator verbally indicates that their line is open. When unmuted, all participants must state their name and address for the record, then proceed with comments or questions. Questions and comments may also be entered into the Q&A function within the Zoom webinar control panel. Staff and/or the moderator will monitor this function during the meeting and provide the information requested. There shall be no private messages or side conversations during the meeting utilizing the chat or Q&A functions. Chat and Q&A messages are part of the public record. There is one or more public hearings scheduled as part of this meeting. After the chair announces the public hearing, staff will read the public hearing notice into the record, state that the hearing is open and subject to the meeting procedure as stated, and provide a brief overview of the proposal. The chair will then proceed with the hearing by making calls for public comment. Following the third call for public comment, the chair will close the public hearing and proceed to consideration of the remaining agenda items. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. I know that's a lot to read, but I appreciate that. That will get us to approval of the minutes of February 23rd, 2021. Commissioners, have you all had a chance to review them? When you're satisfied that there's no discussion, omissions, errors, or corrections that are needed, we'll entertain a motion.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of February 23rd, 2021.
Kuzikowski will second.
Roll call starting with Commissioner Hannah.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Don, I think you're up.
Oldani, aye. Sorry.
That's okay.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. It gets us through the minutes. That will lead us to significant common council actions. Carrie.
Council approved the following: an ordinance amending the official map for a portion of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter of section 18, which is the mapped unimproved right-of-way affecting the properties at 8100 South 27th Street and 8100 South Orchard Way. Also an ordinance approving a conditional use permit allowing outdoor display of retail merchandise, which are trailers, in a portion of the parking lot on the properties at 501 and 315 West Rawson Avenue. and a resolution approving a minor land division or certified survey map submitted by Linda Gorens Levy General Capital Group for the properties at 9954 and 9962 South 13th Street. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. That will get us to I believe it's our first and only public hearing. And it's a sign appeal for proposed signs for Crumble Cookies. It would allow the applicant to install 2 signs on both the north and south elevations of a multi-tenant commercial building at 160 West Town Square Way. Carrie, if you would please read the official notice.
City of Oak Creek notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. This meeting will be held by video phone conference only. Persons wishing to participate in the video conference, including applicants and their representatives, must register via the link prior to the meeting. The video conference will begin at 5:55 p.m. to allow participants to log in. Attendees who wish to participate by phone may do so by calling the City Hall at 414-766-7000 before 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting, which is March 9th, to obtain a meeting call-in number. Persons who wish to view the meeting without participating may visit the City of Oak Creek YouTube page at the link provided. Persons requiring other reasonable accommodations may contact the city at 414-766-7000. Requests should be made as far in advance as possible, preferably a minimum of 48 hours. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held on March 9th, 2020 at 6 p.m. This is via online video conference. The appellant is Wes Henry, Crumble Cookies. The tax key number is 813-904-6000. Property location is 160 West Town Square Way. The request is for variances from section 170334, part of the Drexeltown Square Mixed Use Plan Development District General Development Plan and Regulating Plan, which states that the maximum sign height is 15% of the retail floor height. If granted, the variances would allow the applicant to install 2 42.5-inch height by 10 feet, 7.5-inch length wall signs on the north and south elevations, 1 sign per elevation of the existing multi-tenant commercial building. The zoning of the property is DTS MUPDD, Drexeltown Square Mixed Use Plan Development District. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 17th day of February 2021. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Mayor Dan Bukevich, Chairman. This is a public hearing. All those who wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record once you have been unmuted by the moderator, and address all comments and questions to the Plan Commission. This hearing is now open. Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you, Carrie. As Carrie stated, we will make 3 calls. Anybody wishing to speak, we will need your name and address for the record. This will be the first call. IT, do we have anybody waiting in the queue?
I do not see anybody raising their hand.
Okay, thank you. This will be the second call. Anybody wishing to speak on the sign appeal for Crumble Cookies at 160 West Town Square Way? Please signify by using the raise hand function.
Catherine is raising her hand. I'm gonna allow her to talk.
Oh, please.
Yeah, this is Catherine Kippis from La Crosse Sign Company, and I was just going to answer any questions that the Plan Commission might have. We had some problems signing on, but I was able to get logged on to the meeting.
Well, great. I'm glad you're with us, Catherine, and we will address those questions when we hit the commissioners.
Thank you.
And third and final call, anybody wishing to speak, please utilize the raise hand function. Okay, seeing no one, we will now close the public hearing and go on to 6A, which is consideration of that sign appeal we just spoke of. Carrie, narrative before we go to the applicant for
Sure.
any description?
The request is for 2 primary signs, one on the north elevation, one on the south. Primary signs, as mentioned, are limited to 15% of the retail floor height. And in this particular case, the retail floor height limits the signs on the building to a maximum of 32 inches. All existing signs, with the exception of the Mod Pizza shield on the north elevation, are compliant, meaning they're 32 inches high or less. So the request is for an additional 10.5 inches of height for the Crumble Cookie signs, which are now on the screen. What I have is a screenshot showing what the existing and the former tenant space signs looked like. The former orange leaf tenant space is what we're looking at. And for comparison, the orange leaf sign was approximately 27 inches in height. The Five Guys Men's Hair House, Mod Pizza, and Potbelly signs are all 32 inches or maybe slightly less. The exact same sign would be on the north elevation, and on the south elevation. You will notice that the backer plate is going to be black with lettering attached to it. The backer plate has to be counted in the overall square footage, which is an additional, I think maybe half an inch or an inch, maybe a little bit more than that, or I'm sorry, foot, not a foot, sorry. The additional dimensions between the actual lettering and the logo and the backer plate add to the overall height of the sign. So just for clarification, north side, same thing, showing the view from Drexel Avenue of the existing and former tenant spaces. Same sign proposed on this elevation as well. There are criteria and considerations for sign appeals that the Plan Commission can consider. You can talk about the location, the height, the overall size, appearance, etc. And then the approval criteria 1 through 4 there. The only thing that we cannot make any kind of judgment calls on, of course, are content. Staff does not provide any kind of recommendation, so there is a motion if the Plan Commission wishes to approve within the staff report itself. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. And would the applicant, Catherine, would you like to say anything before we start out, or would you just like to wait on questions if they happen to arise?
Wes is raising his hand.
Oh, sure. Wes, please name and address for the record.
Yeah, it's Wes Henry. I'm the owner of Crumble 160 West Town Square Way.
Super. Would you like to say anything before I go to the commission? Any explanation of why the extra 10 inches or anything like that?
Sure, just
Or
a
do you
quick,
just want to wait on questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick note. This is going to be the 4th location within the Wisconsin area. It is a franchise, and my signs require corporate approval. With trying to gain brand awareness in the area, I tried to do a single line crumble cookies, but corporate denied that. And unfortunately, this is the only option is requesting the appeal for a larger sign. But I feel like it fits in with the our goal is to elevate the brands next to us, and I feel like even this size increase with this proposed sign fits in very well, and we look forward to making a positive addition to this strip mall.
Okay, thank you, Wes. Stand by. We're going to go to the commission. If they have any questions, hopefully you can answer it for them. So we'll start with Commissioner Hanna.
I have no questions. I understand the sign is a little bit larger than requested or what we expect, but it's not as large as will it actually appreciate any other stores nearby. So I have no questions or nothing else.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Commissioner Sullivan,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo.
Quick question. There's 2 different sizes, even though it should be the same area on the south and north side. Is there a reason for that?
This is Wes. I'll let Catherine answer that.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, yeah, we showed 2 different versions. So one is the 32-inch tall letters or signage, and that is what the signage would look like on the building as proposed. That would be allowed by ordinance. And then the 42.5-inch was the other set, and that's side by side as to what the increase that we're asking for looks like on the building. So we were just showing the 2 options of what code would allow and then what we're asking for.
I understand now. It does look to me a little larger than it probably should be compared to the Pot Belly and the Five Guys. Is there another option between these two? I just think the Crumble is way bigger. I mean, it's really taking a large part of that storefront facade. I see where the small one is kind of small. Could we consider somewhere in the middle?
We proposed it based on the signage, the letter height not exceeding, not being as tall, but as Wes mentioned in the initial comments, they have certain brands that they have to stick to, and so the crumble cookies has to be stacked as it is, and it has to be on the backer panel due to the frontage of the building. So that is why we had asked for it to be the 42.5 inches. The logo and the letters themselves aren't as tall. It's the backer panel that accounts for that 42.5.
Yes, I understand, but it kind of, it does look like the logo, the brown or black on the background. But thank you.
The backer.
Is that it, Don?
That's it.
Okay. Alderman Guzekowski?
I don't have any problems with what's presented, and I don't have any reason to hold it up.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Commissioner O'Dani?
No questions.
Commissioner Seipert?
I don't see any problems with the signage.
Okay. Commissioner Chandler?
My questions were asked. No additional questions. Thank you.
Okay. From my point of view, yeah, it's big. I really hate this every time we have to go through this. Unfortunately, they're kind of stuck corporately with what they have. They're not going to be allowed to do a custom sign. It's just, I'm fine with it, I guess, on the variance, without a doubt. Actually, for a guy like me with glasses as thick as mine, it's probably good to have a sign that size. So, guess I'm okay. Looking at the men's hair house, I can't believe that one's under 32 inches in height.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I actually looked at that one specifically. They were only approved for a compliance sign. Whether or not that's what actually went up on the building, I can't verify. But all of the signs that are on the building, with the exception of the shield for Mod Pizza, those were all compliant with the master sign plan for the entire building.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, Five Guy, it's all corporate stuff, and they're kind of dealt with what they're dealt. But yeah, I find it hard to believe that and I don't mean to pick on them, but that they're under 32 inches. So I guess I'm okay, because you guys really don't have much of an option. And it is what it is. It's, so. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay.
Dan,
Yes.
I just want to say, I don't really have a problem with it because how it looks. It's no concern to me whether the corporate, wants the bigger one or not. I just want to kind of put that on the table. That's not why I'm making my decision. I just don't, I think it looks good. That's all. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it totally, I'm with you there, Don. I hear you. I just hate the fact that, you're always held to the corporate standards, and we ran into this in other locations as well, on bigger, more name brand things. And you need a certain footage off the road, and it varied, and it was a corporate sign. It was far more visible than this. So, I'm with you. I hear you. I don't think it throws the building out of whack totally. So, So if you're ready, commissioners, we'll entertain a motion.
Seifert moves that the planning commission approves sign variances allowing the installation of one 42.5-inch high by 10 feet, 7.5 inches long wall sign on the south elevation and one 42.5-inch height by 10 feet, 7.5 inches long wall sign on the north elevation of the Crummy Cookie tenant space in the multi-tenant commercial building located at 160 West Town Square Way.
That's
Hannah
the
seconds.
crumble, that's the crumble cookie.
Crumble,
Crumble cookie, not crummy
sorry,
cookie.
crumble cookie.
I believe
I was
Christine,
reading too fast.
Christine, do you concur with the correction on the name?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Roll call, starting with Commissioner Sullivan, please.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Bukevich, aye. Don, Chris?
Guzekowski, aye. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Thank you.
Hannah, aye.
Oh, sorry, we had to wrap around. I faked
Yes.
myself out there. Thank you,
Sure.
Christine. Wes, Catherine, thank you very much. Good luck. You'll make a fine addition to Town Square. We appreciate you choosing Oak Creek. Okay, gets us to item 6B. It's consideration of a rezone certification survey map variations. We're going to review some requests submitted by Mark Verhalen to rezone a portion of the property at 9330 and 9328 South Nicholson Road from RS3 single family to A1 limited agriculture. Will not have any change to the flood fringe. The variations are related to minimum lot size and width for proposed lot 2. I'm going to hand this off to Carrie, and she's going to really break this down to something you can understand other than what I said. So, Carrie?
Well, Mr. Mayor, you kind of took all my talking points, so I'm not sure how much more
Yeah, well,
information I
put it
can
in English
provide.
for us. How's that?
All right. So this is a 3-part consideration. We have had one of these in the past where we have a proposed certified survey map dividing a property, and part of that division, one of those lots is requested to be rezoned and will require several variations due to some of the code sections for that new zoning district not being met. So this is not going to change any of the flood fringe. There are wetlands on the property. Both are going to have to be shown on the map, but this isn't affecting anything other than changing the lot line, dividing off the existing single family residential home from the remainder of the proposed agricultural lot. Rezoning it for agriculture. Now lot 2, as we'll see in a moment, is slightly less than the minimum 5 acres for the A1 district and slightly less than the width for the required distance from the road as per code. So that's what the variations are requested for. And we have some criteria in section 14.180 that have been provided for commissioner reference. Ultimately, if the recommendation is for approval, that is what the council will also be basing their decision on for the variations. There was a written narrative that was included with this report explaining the request. And actually, if we get to the certified survey map, this gives you an idea of what the rezone and the variation requests are pertaining to, and that's lot 2. Lot 1 is currently developed with a single family residential home. So again, that will be divided off from the remainder of the land. And we just need the flood fringe to be shown it's roughly in the same area as the wetland area, but that's really the main change here. And it would be changing to A1. It's 4.622 acres. So again, just slightly under the requirement. And then the 85-foot width for frontage ultimately gets much wider and compliant, but the requirement for basically the setback distance, that's not met in this particular this lot. However, if we consider the fact that this land is actually part of a much larger acreage that has been separated by, in this case, several different things, railroad being one of them. This exhibit gives you an idea of the overall acreage that would have been connected to Lot 2 at some point in time, but had been, kind of separated through different land divisions, as it were, over time. So again, all this information was included as part of the narrative request for the variations. For Plan Commission to recommend approval, all three of these are interdependent. So that's why the suggested motion has the multiple pieces to it. If there are any questions about that, I can certainly provide a little bit more information. If not, the suggested motion is on the screen for consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that because there's a lot going on. Before we go to the commission, I know the applicants are with us. I've seen Kim Verhalen's name pop up, and I would imagine hopefully Mark's with us as well. If they'd like to speak before the commission, please allow them in.
Unmute. Okay.
Hello, yeah, we're here, Dan.
Oh, Mark,
Mark,
Kim, you know the deal. We need your name and name and address.
9330 South Nicholson Road. We're currently living in the new house at 9330 South Nicholson Road. That's the portion that we want to divide off with the CSM, and then the remainder, and you see it on your maps. It's Lot 2, which is currently residential 3. The 85-foot frontage there on the front would allow us to build another residence there on the frontage on the road because it's a legal width lot in the residential 3. However, if a home is built there, it kind of renders the rear part of the property with no possible residential use anymore. So we kind of thought, being that I'm farming here and the property on Lot 2, as well as the back portions of the property, have been farmed here by us since 1946. We kind of would like to get the balance of Lot 2 there back to A1 agriculture, not only to meet the back portions of the property, but with doing this, it makes us conforming use with the residential 3 on the back part of that property. We're a non-conforming use, and I'd rather have us be a conforming use according to zoning and have us continue as a non-conforming use. That pretty much wraps it up. We do have access to the back portions of the property via crossings on the Chicago Northwestern and the other right-of-ways that cut across our property. So we do have access to the rear portions of the property readily with any equipment or vehicles or whatever. But the only question I would have is when we go back to the A1 agriculture zoning on the balance of Lot 2, my son plans on building a home on that property in the near future, and we want to be assured that we can still do that.
That's a Carrie or Doug question.
Yeah, I would guess. Like I said, we could legally put a home there with the 85-foot of frontage with the residential 3 zoning, but if we go back to the A1 agriculture, the frontage is not large enough for a home. So technically we could still do it. We'd have to go back and then rezone another. You'd have to divide a lot off and then get it rezoned back to residential 3. So I was just wondering if it would be possible at the time when my son would decide to build a home there, that if we need a variance or something to build a home on that balance of Lot 2, which is 4.66 acres.
The A1 district does allow for farm dwellings.
Okay.
All right.
They just have different setbacks than the residential district requirements.
Right.
Which we should meet the district setbacks. Okay.
Carrie, just kind of educate me. If it's a farm dwelling, is the setback probably farther than the average home?
They do have different setbacks, and Mark and I can talk offline about what setbacks would have to be applied for that.
Okay, I would think with close to 5 acres, that would probably work.
Yeah, the setbacks aren't necessarily going to be a problem. You do have to be a little bit farther back, but I don't have those setbacks in front of me at the moment. So Mark, you and I can talk tomorrow.
All right, that's fine.
Okay, is that it, Mark?
Yeah, if any other commissioners got any questions as the more details on this thing, we'd be glad to answer them if there is any. So we're ready to continue on, I guess.
Okay, great. Let's start off. We'll go with Commissioner Chandler this time. We'll go from right to left. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question for Carrie. So there are 2 items based on this lot that it doesn't meet the lot width and the minimum acreage. And when we say it doesn't meet those requirements, that's specific to rezoning it to A1, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so would this cause any problems outside of just farming on the land? Or is that related to the house that may be built on this property, or is something else?
So rezoning to A1 would mean that all of the A1 district requirements would apply to that lot. So setbacks, number of structures, the type of structures, all of that applies. They are allowed to have a farm dwelling, and the property would be expected to be farmland. And as Mark said, that is what they're using it for now, is farmland. So yes, it would have implications. Most of them would be regarding setbacks and use.
Thank you.
Is that it, Chauncey?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Fred.
No, I don't have any problems. It looks okay to me.
Okay, Don.
Yeah, I'm with Fred. Looks good.
Okay, Chris.
No questions here. Thank you.
Dawn.
No questions.
Matt
No questions. Thank you.
and Christine.
Maybe more a question to Carrie, if not. I see on the application here that there is a wetland and floodplain. What is the impact on those 2 items?
The certified survey map, there is no impact to the wetland or the flood fringe areas, and they would not be changed as part of the rezone. The wetland and the flood fringe come into play whenever there is a development proposal.
Okay, that's all what I have. Thank you.
Okay. I have no comments. Everything was covered. It's good by me. So if there's no further discussion, questions, motion, please.
Hannah moved that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council, 1, that a portion of the property at 9330 South Nicholson Road, shown as Lot 1 on the proposed certified survey map, be rezoned from RS3 Single Family Residential to A1.
Commissioner Hannah, if I can interrupt, that's a typo. It should be Lot 2.
Okay. So as amended by Carrie, Lot 2, Single Family Residential to A1 Limited Agriculture, no change to FF Flood Fringe District. And 2, that the certified survey map and variation requests submitted by Mark and Kim Viralen for the property at 9330 South Nicholson Road be approved with the following conditions. A, that the floodplain boundary is included on the map prior to recording. B, that existing buildings are shown on the map prior to recording. C, that all technical corrections included but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call, starting with Commissioner Carrillo.
Carrillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, I.
Great, thank you. Mark, Kim, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good luck. That will get us to item 6C, plan review, site and building plans related to the construction on behalf of Wendy's for some exterior modifications to the building, 9503 South 13th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one is simply exterior site and building modifications as was stated. This is for an existing Wendy's restaurant on the property. The site modifications are very, I don't want to say basic, but straightforward. All of the sign faces that are existing for directional signage and monument signage, those are going to be just refaced. No changes to the dimensions or the locations, just refaced. The drive-through clearance bar is going to be new, added to the west side in the drive-through area. There's also going to be a separate clearance canopy, slightly larger, over the existing menu board. That menu board is not changing and it's not moving. And then for the exterior freezer enclosure or kind of fenced area screening and the trash enclosure, those are going to be repaired. Any kind of missing pieces are going to be replaced. For the building, and this is just giving you a bit of a graphic of what those clearance bars look like. The clearance bar that's in the blue box in the center, that's the your basic clearance bar. The clearance canopy just has kind of a wider, kind of like a 6x6 canopy that'll cover those who are going to be going through the drive-through at the menu board. So you just have a little bit more protection from the elements as you're placing your order. For the building itself, oh, there we go. Most of the modifications are to the east. So this is what we've seen at the Wendy's location on Howell and Drexel, kind of bringing that facade into their corporate identity now. So the existing kind of copper color canopy that we've seen, that's going to be replaced. And you can get an idea from how this is going to look with the graphic over on the bottom left corner. That's a location in Franklin, gives you an idea of the kind of the red fascia that they're proposing. What's different here is that there's actually a solarium that's on the east side. So there's a bit of a bubble with windows, and that has a canopy over it now. It's canvas. That will be replaced by kind of a flat angled metal roof. The portions of the fascia that will remain will be painted, kind of a darker copper color and silver to match. Other upgrades to the exterior of the building, there's going to be a metal canopy over the drive-through window, the pickup window. Some of that facade is also going to be repaired, but really what we're talking about is the eastern fascia update. With that, there's a suggested motion for approval. One other thing to mention, there is parking that has been shown, not in the site plans that were part of this review, but part of the overall Wendy's property. On the western side, it does look like there's truck parking there. We just want to clarify that the truck parking is for customers only. No overnight parking has been allowed as part of this review or any other prior approvals for this property. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Is the applicant with us? They'd like to make mention of anything that wasn't covered in Carrie's report before we go to the commission? Is anybody out there?
No one is raising their hands currently.
Okay, we will wait on that. We will go right to the commission and we'll start with Christine.
I have no questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Matt?
I have none either. Thank you.
Okay, Dawn?
None for me.
Chris?
This is actually in my district, and this will is a welcome update for this corner. So it'd be nice to be done, have it done.
We have a raised hand from Mike Blazer.
Oh, please put Mike on.
Mike, you've been unmuted.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
Mike, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think you covered everything. It's pretty basic. But you have everything that we were gonna be changing, so.
All right. Okay, if that's it, Mike?
I mean, I guess that's it. Yep. My secretary was supposed to be doing this. I'm not very good with this stuff, so,
That's okay. Just hang tight in case there's a question. Just kind of hang loose.
okay.
All right, relax.
Mayor,
Chris,
do you
oh, I'm
need
sorry.
his- Do you need his information for the record?
Yes, Mike, thank you, Chauncey. I appreciate that. Mike, can you give us your name and address, please? We need that for the records.
Okay, Michael Blazer, Blaeser, address 6289 State Highway 60, Hartford, Wisconsin, 53027.
Thank you, Mike. Yep, just hang on, and if Commissioner has a question, you'll be ready to go. Chris, you had the floor. Are you done? Okay, Chris is signaling yes. Don?
I've got nothing.
Fred?
No questions.
Okay, Chauncey?
No questions.
I myself have none either. You know, this was done at the other Wendy's. I want to say not too long ago, but it probably was quite a bit ago. So, you know, they're sprucing it up. I kind of agree with Chris. This building's been there a long time, probably needs a little oomph. So I think it's a good thing. If there's no further questions or discussion, motion, please.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission approves building plans submitted by Mike Blazer Construction LLC for the property at 9503 South 13th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that permits are obtained for proposed wall signs. 3, parking for all semi trucks shall be for active restaurant patrons only. No overnight parking shall be allowed on this property. 4, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, starting with Commissioner Bukevich.
We have a raised hand from Mike again.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Mike, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
The address says 95503. I think it's 9053. If you look it up on Google, it says 9503, but I think it's 9053. That's what the address says on the building. I don't know what difference that makes, but I thought I'd bring that out.
Block, but Carrie, can we verify very quickly?
Yep, let me try this real quick. Stand by.
Because Frontline coming up there. Oh, it's 81 at Orchard Way. Yeah, you know, the Schleter property is 9141. It's probably 95. But double
So
check.
they have the address wrong on the building then.
Mr. Mayor, this is Assistant Chief Mike Havey.
Yep.
The address is probably consistent because Ryan Road is 9500 block. So I think that's probably pretty close to what the actual address is.
Yes,
we-
confirmed on the GIS. It is 9503.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
We did have a motion and a second. We'll start the roll call with Commissioner Bukevich. Aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Goldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Hannah, I.
Sullivan, I.
Grillo, I.
That's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Blazer. Good luck. Look forward to the end product. So Item 6D, plan review building and site plans related to the astronautic site for modifications and exterior enclosure on the west elevations of the existing building, 135 and 195 West Forest Hill. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The modifications are mostly pertaining to the west elevation of this building with regard to an addition and an enclosure. The facade modifications are on the south side, as we will see, and there is a pavement extension for the exterior addition of a nitrogen tank, which will have a small enclosure at the base. On the screen right now is the existing versus the proposed site plan. I recognize that it's small and probably not very easy to determine exactly what's going to be going on here. Most of what we're going to be talking about tonight is in the western portion of the screen and the lower southwest corner. South elevation options, there are two that have been proposed. You can see that it's pretty much just limited to windows. There are some interior renovations that are happening with this building, and these are two options for various interior renovation options as well. So there will either be an addition of 3 banks of windows or 6. And as we go to the west elevation, this is what is kind of the root of the request. There is an addition, 356 square feet. It will be smooth face painted CMU to match the building. And that's kind of the center block here. The X's that you see are actually interior support. So that's not Xing out or canceling or saying this is not relevant. That's actually interior structural. So please pay no attention to that. And then finally, there is this nitrogen tank that is proposed with 2 options for a fence. And that fence is, let me see here. The 2 options are both going to be 6 feet tall, chain length with privacy slats and a 36-inch gate. The difference is going to be the width and whether or not they add an additional gate. There will either be a 36-inch swinging gate with a sliding gate that's also 6 feet wide, or there's just going to be a single gate with that 6 foot tall chain link fence. Again, both with privacy slats. It's just a matter of, is it going to be larger with 2 gates or is it going to be smaller with 1 gate? And again, this is for basic security and screening. It's not going to screen the entire tank. It's for 6 feet at the base. Due to the nature of the request, no additional landscaping is required. That additional pavement is a driveway access to this nitrogen tank. And all mechanical units, if there are any, that would have to be screened. I don't anticipate that there are any for this particular request, but if there are any, they would have to be screened with either landscaping or an enclosure that would be approved by the department. And the suggested motion on the screen is for approval. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
A
Carrie.
raised hand from Stuart LaRose.
Please put Stuart on. Appreciate that.
Hello. Yes, my name is Stuart LaRose. I'm an architect project manager with MSI General in Oconomowoc. My address is P.O. Box 7, Oconomowoc 53066. And I just wanted to clarify, and sorry for the confusion, with regard to the fence around the nitrogen tank. We are proposing the wider one that's on the bottom of the screen, just to get a little bit more access around the 3 sides of it. So that was the proposal there. And then the only clarification I had on the windows on the previous slide, that's correct, what you have in the box there. And then as far as the elevations on the south elevation windows, the owner was, Astronautics was proposing to add these windows in the future if possible. And the reason between 3 windows versus 6 depends on the extent of the second floor infill within their existing plant. They're still deciding on 2 sizes that infill is going to be, either 14,000 square feet or 35,000 square feet. So what they wanted to propose is that those windows be installed in the future if that's acceptable to the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you for those clarifications, Stu. I think that really will probably help some of the commissioners.
You're welcome.
Anything else to add before we go to the commission? Okay, we'll take that as a no. We will start with Commissioner Hannah.
I have no question. My only concern, Carrie has already addressed with the chain link fence and the height. So that was my concern. Thank you.
Okay. Matt,
No questions. Thank you.
Dawn,
No questions.
okay. Chris,
No questions.
Don,
No questions.
Fred,
No questions.
and Chauncey.
I do have a question for the applicant in regards to the fence around the enclosure or the tank enclosure. So is the tank already there and you're just looking to enclose the tank, or is a new tank coming in its place?
Yes, a new tank would be coming in its place. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So we would add the fence enclosing the new tank. You are correct.
Okay, and so with the new tank, how large is it?
It's approximately 8 feet in diameter and the height is approximately 26 feet.
Okay.
And the building itself is 36 feet, excuse me, 37 feet to the top of the coping. So I take that back. Our tank height is about 34 feet.
34, okay. And so I do have a question for safety purposes. So if I understand correctly, the fence would only be 6 feet tall, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and why just 6 feet?
We want to prohibit access to the tank itself. There's nothing that you can manipulate to the tank from the outside. It's all locked off and it's strictly for filling the tank so that a truck can back up, open the gate and then fill the tank. But there is no way to unlock that or open that up from the outside.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one additional question for fire, the assistant chief. So is there anything else that we need in this area for protection, for safety purposes that you would recommend?
Oh, we don't have any concerns with the product that they're storing there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Most of my questions were answered. Commissioner Chandler got the fire. That is good. I would agree with you. Wider is better around that tank. I don't have a problem with that. As far as the 6 windows versus the 3, I myself am fine with doing the 3 and 3 in the future if needed, if they decide to go to 35,000 feet. Depending on what they use that space for, those windows could be unnecessary. So I'm okay with that. I don't know where the rest of the commissioners are. Other than that, I do not have a lot of questions. So, Carrie, regarding the windows, obviously we got the standard stuff with mechanicals. Do we have to put something in there regarding the windows?
No. They would be allowed to have up to the 6. And to be perfectly honest, if they added more than the 6 windows, probably wouldn't even need to come back to the Plan Commission. And if they didn't want to add any windows, it also wouldn't have to come back to the Plan Commission. Really what the main review points are for the addition and for the fence around the tank.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thanks for the education. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, motion.
Guzikowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Sean Wheelup. Is that correct? Or Wheelup? Astronautics for the properties at 135 and 195 West Forest Hill Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that all mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground, building, and rooftop shall be screened from view. And 3, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, starting with Alderman Guzekowski, please.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Sullivan, I.
Grillo, I.
Bukevich, aye. Okay. Good luck, Stu. Look forward to the addition. Thank you. Item 6E is a certified survey map. This is submitted by Dave Decker of Decker Properties, and it's combining and reconfiguring properties at 8100, 8146 South 27th Street, 8100 South Orchard Way. Carrie, this is so familiar. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning of these three properties are A1 and B4, going to be combining them and reconfiguring them as was stated, and the reconfiguration will have an effect from that relocated public extension of Orchard Way. That's dedicated as part of this CSM in anticipation of a future multifamily residential plan unit development for this property that's forthcoming. And just a clarification, plan commissioners should have received by email a revised certified survey map that was not included in your packet. There was a last minute update. Unfortunately, it didn't make it into the report before it was finalized. So hopefully everybody got a copy of the revision, and we are going to be looking at that right now. Really what the revision included was a clarification of the required buffer areas for wetlands. And there had been some back and forth regarding confirming the right-of-way inclusion of that easement for a turnaround area. All of that has been incorporated in this certified survey map. So when we get to a motion, the first condition that was included in the report is no longer valid, as that's already been incorporated into this. So again, we've got the right-of-way dedication for that future road extension for Orchard Way on here. Buffers are as shown, they are compliant now. And there is the dedication right here on the screen that we were just talking about. And a motion for, suggested motion for approval, again, just incorporating that single condition. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Anybody, applicant with us? Any comment before we go to commission?
A raised hand from Dave Decker.
Go ahead, Mr. Decker. Name and address, please.
Hi, it's Dave Decker with Decker Properties, 250 North Sunny Slope Road, Suite 290 in Brookfield, Wisconsin, 53005. And just wanted to make myself available to answer any questions.
Oh, great. Thank you, Mr. Decker. With that, we'll go to the commission. Commissioner Chandler, we'll start at your end this time.
No questions.
Okay. Fred?
No questions at this time.
Okay. Don?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions.
Dawn?
Nothing for me.
Matt?
Nothing. Thank you.
And Christine?
Nothing from me too. Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing myself either. We've kind of been through this, and Carrie did a great job with it. So we will look for a motion.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Dave Decker Properties Incorporated for the properties at 8100 and 8146 South 27th Street and 8100 South Orchard Way be approved with the following conditions. 1, that wetland buffers are revised for conformance with the municipal code.
Commissioner
prior to-
Seifert, Commissioner Seifert, we've eliminated that condition because it's already been incorporated into the revised map. So it's just the technical corrections that's applicable.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we'll take it off. I didn't know that. So number one, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate, geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, starting with Commissioner O'Dani.
Hold on, aye.
Donnie,
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
And I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Okay, that is it. Good luck, Mr. Decker. And item 6F, plan review, site and building plans related to the frontline commercial real estate for a multi-tenant industrial building and the properties at 9141 South 13th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Plan commissioners should be intimately familiar with this property now. We've looked at it a couple of times with regard to the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezone to M1 that was completed at the beginning of this year. The proposal for Plan Commission consideration tonight is for the 340,401 square foot multi-tenant industrial building. This can accommodate up to 4 tenants, and it will be inclusive of that fabric distribution or the fabric manufacturer that we had discussed in previous applications. There's also a food distributor that has been identified as a potential tenant, and then up to 2 more tenant spaces for general manufacturing have also been identified. There have been no tenants that have been confirmed at this point, but those are the prospective users. The building itself meets the dimensional and setback requirements for the district. And as we can see on this site plan, there's 2 entrance and exit points split on 13th Street. The northern entrance and exit is for employees and visitor parking. And there is a fire department turnaround at the far west side. And then on the southern portion, that is restricted to truck traffic only. And there is a physical barrier there that would restrict trucks to go south on 13th Street. If we talk about parking for a moment, we do have a couple of things to discuss. One is because we don't know the exact nature of the tenants in this building, and often with these speculative multi-tenant buildings, there's nothing that has been necessarily confirmed when it comes before the Plan Commission. It's often difficult to determine exactly what the required number of parking stalls is. So we do our best based on what the code requires. So minimum warehousing operations require 1 stall for every 5,000 gross square feet of building, and 1 space for every peak shift employee. General manufacturing, processing, and fabrication requires 1 stall for every peak shift employee. So we're trying to meld the two a little bit with this building. As part of the narrative, the fabric business is anticipating 40 employees at their peak shift, and the food distribution facility is anticipating about 25 employees at their peak shift. Since we don't know the other tenants, what their uses may be, we have to go based solely on square footage. So if we take all of that into consideration and just make an assumption that the rest of the building square footage wise is going to be used for basic manufacturing or for basic warehouse, a minimum of 133 parking stalls would be required. And that's exclusive of any trucking stalls that we'll talk about in a moment. And what we have proposed in this site plan is 155. So it appears that the parking requirements, at least based on the information that we have, is exceeding the requirements per code. Now, if we talk about the truck and trailer parking on the south, there are 52 stalls that are proposed, exclusive of where you could have temporary parking at the docks. What they're showing, however, for dimensions is a little bit narrower than what staff have seen in any other industrial proposal prior to this. They're proposing 10-foot wide by 50-foot long trailer stalls. And every other proposal that we have seen brought before the Plan Commission has been a minimum of 12. And in fact, that's the industry standard. So staff is strongly recommending that these stalls be amended to meet that minimum 12-foot width. As I mentioned, there could also be temporary parking in those loading docks that are on the south. There are approximately 22. The two end ones kind of have a little bit of an incline. The rest are kind of at grade, if you will. We do have some screening requirements as part of the code, and we don't have that. Okay. Thought I had a landscape plan to show you. So some of the screening requirements that we have per code are for the loading docks themselves, and then we have vegetation requirements for the rest of the property. I'm going to talk about them kind of in tandem, but separately as well. So the two areas of loading docks that we are talking about, I believe there is an incorporation of a screen wall. It wasn't entirely clear from the elevations that we received whether or not that was a screen wall or if that was further in. If it is a screen wall, there were no dimensions. So the only thing that I can say is that it would be on the east side and it is precast to match the building. And we would need to know the height. The vegetation in that area would not be sufficient to screen those loading docks at all. In terms of height and where the grading is for the proposed contours, the heights of the plants are either 4 or 5 in that area, 4 or 5 feet tall. And the contours are such that it would only provide maybe a couple of feet of screening. So that's something that is mentioned in the staff report in a little bit more detail. Same kind of scenario on the west side, although there isn't any indication, at least that I could see, that there would be a screen wall on this side, but we are recommending that as well. Same thing for the vegetation. There are gaps. The proposed heights of the materials would not be sufficient to screen those loading docks. And the contours are such that they would only provide a couple of feet as well. So what staff is recommending is that the landscaping plans be amended to incorporate those comments as well as other comments regarding landscaping throughout the site. And there are some code requirements that are missing from those plans as well. We need, clarification of the installation versus the mature height. There need to be labels to make that landscape plan much more clear. The use of native and prairie plantings, that requires specific council approval outside of those detention areas. And that is because the heights of those plants can often exceed 1 foot. And that would go above our ordinance for weeds. And unfortunately, sometimes those native plantings can be mistaken for weeds. So we need to make that very clear that if that's going to be used, the council needs to approve its use. And in terms of the landscaping for the remainder of the site, there were significant trees that were removed from this property prior to any reviews or approvals from the city. And therefore, we are requesting that landscaping be enhanced on this property in order to address that concern as well. One of the other concerns that we have raised are the fact that some of these landscape items are proposed on the property line itself and within easements. What we are concerned about is we need to make sure that those plants are fully contained within the property lines and outside of any easements to ensure that we are not planting anything that would be not disallowed by public utilities to kind of interfere with their infrastructure. And we also don't want to have that just removed entirely based on the fact that there's an easement. So we need to ensure that there's sufficient planting space outside of easements and within the property lines themselves for maintenance purposes, as well as to meet code requirements. Some additional building details. We've talked about the minimum parking requirements and the anticipated tenants and the trailer parking as well. So if we talk about the landscape plan itself, it's kind of in 4 quadrants and makes it a little bit easier. So in that northwest quadrant, we have some landscaping, and to the north right now, there's open space. It's actually zoned B3, but it's open and it's all part of one property that has a single family home that's close to 13th Street. But we do have some plantings around that turnaround area for the fire department. And if we look at the northeast, this is where the employee and visitor entrance is going to be. The monument sign that was on previous plans has been removed. So at such time that the signs, which are not part of this review, are brought for a master sign plan review, we would be looking for the identification of the monument sign and landscaping at the base of that monument sign as well. Southwest corner, again, this is what we were talking about in terms of screening those loading docks. You can see there's a group of 5 plantings here. Those are proposed to be installed at a height of 4 feet. Unfortunately, that contour line where those plantings are going to be is lower than where the loading dock is, at least for this loading dock on the far west side. And then we have the next grouping of 5 foot tall at installation plants, where there's also a gap, and then there's a 1 2-inch caliper tree here. So we are very concerned about ensuring that those loading docks are adequately screened, either by using additional screening through landscaping or with the combination of a screen wall. Finally, on the southeast corner, this is where the majority of those prairie and native plantings are proposed. That's where we would need to ensure that those parking stalls, the trailer parking stalls, are adequately screened, and that the Common Council approves the use of those native and prairie plantings. This is also the area on the east where I believe they are proposing a screen wall that doesn't have any dimensions. We would need additional information regarding that. The elevations are shown on the screen right now for the building itself. I realize that this is very busy, but the building is very big. So don't worry, we do have some renderings that we can show you as well. Suffice it to say that the building is going to be proposed with precast concrete insulated panels painted in a variety of kind of those neutral warm colors, as shown on the screen. So there are going to be about 4 entrances. The end caps are mirroring themselves in terms of the amount of glass, the treatments, etc. There are composite metal accents as well, and it was unclear whether these are actually canopies or if they are flush against the building. If they are not canopies, then staff is recommending canopies over each of the entrances. If they are just accents, or if they are canopies, we would need to have a little bit of clarification in these elevations as to what is flush to the building and what is actually a canopy. But you can see on the screen here, we've got a variety of windows at pedestrian level, as well as kind of those clear story windows. South elevation with the loading docks, pretty much the same as those industrial buildings that we've seen with loading dock areas. This does incorporate windows for that entirety of the south elevation. Gives you an idea a little bit of how the heights of those loading dock doors and entrances are with regard to the contour comments that I made previously. There is also, it's not clear, you can't really see it very clearly on these elevations, but the loading dock area in the center, right about here, if you can see where my cursor is, make that a little bit easier for everybody to see. Right there, that's the location of the dumpster enclosure. That will be utilizing the same kind of concrete panel as the building. No information as to the gate material, however. And the west elevation mirrors the east elevation. So what you'd be seeing from 13th Street is pretty much what you'd be seeing from the freeway as well. Couple of renderings for you now. This is the northwest corner of the building. Gives you an idea of what that end cap would look like mirrored again on the other opposite side. This would be a view from 13th Street. Southeast corner giving you an idea of where that loading dock area would be. And of course, these are showing mature plantings. A view of the north side of the building. And again, that north corner looking south. We have not received any mechanicals locations. Rooftop mechanicals would have to be screened adequately, either behind the parapets or behind screens that would be approved by the department per code. The applicant is aware of this requirement, but since the tenants have not been finalized, and of course the interior build outs have not been drawn yet, the exact locations of those rooftop mechanicals can't be known at this point. So as with any application for a building like this, we do require that all of the mechanical units, be they ground building or rooftop mounted, they all have to be screened. That includes transformers, that includes utility boxes, all of that would have to be screened adequately. Lighting locations and details have been included as part of the Plan Commission's packets. Lighting that has been on the north side, sited on poles. Those are shielded on the sides that are facing the residential areas. They're downward directed. We are still requesting that they be limited to a maximum of 3,500 kelvins. That's in recognition of the location adjacent to these residential areas. Wall packs on the building itself will also be directed downward and shielded. And as previously mentioned, this will require a master sign plan if there are more than 2 tenants in the building, and that will come at a later date. There is a suggested motion on the screen. It is in 2 parts because there are a couple of conditions that have been suggested for Plan Commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. That's quite a bit. Does the applicant, would he like to say anything before we go to commission? Or should we go right to the commission? Is there a raise hand function up? Anybody
There's
with us?
raised hand. John will be speaking.
Okay, put him on.
John, you've been unmuted.
I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, and commissioners, thank you as well. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, John. We'll start, Commissioner Hannah, go left to right.
Okay, I have actually a couple questions. Not sure if it's to Carrie or Matt. So this building, from the number of stalls, either for visitors / employees or trucking, the left turn into that site, do we have like a storage for those people turning left into the building? Or how is this gonna work? We don't wanna, especially with 2 lanes. How is this gonna work?
Mayor, this is Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes.
The site itself on 13th Street, there are improvements on there that were required on the TIA that they have incorporated into the plan set. One of them was extending 2 lanes in the north direction past the north entrance, which would then allow that bypass prior to the next intersection. So as far as going north, there should be enough storage for left turn with bypass lanes, so to speak. And then southbound for the passenger cars or the employees, there was just a pullout that was required. So just a taper. And then on the south entrance, there was about 200 feet or 150 feet north of the entrance. They had to extend that double lanes going southbound. So that should address the concern of turning right into the site.
How about turning left, Matt? So I understand that there is 2 lanes in each direction as of now, but still, it's not marked as a turning lane unless it's going, what is it gonna be, like a stop controlled, or what type of control into that high volume entrance?
It'd be no different than you'd be dealing with a 4-lane road where people were turning left into a subdivision. We have a number of those throughout the city. There were no other improvements identified in the TIA as a dedicated left turn lane into
Okay.
the site.
Even with that high of a volume of entrance for employees / visitors, with how many stalls?
In accordance with the TIA that I read, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, that's it for me.
Oh, okay, thank you, Christine. Matt, you have the floor if you want to continue.
Matt,
We
you've
had,
been unmuted.
yeah, we have no concerns as far as out of engineering. They've addressed our major concerns. I guess I'd like to echo a lot of Carrie's concerns with the landscaping and things along those lines. So we should just try to keep those in mind as much as possible.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Dawn?
Nothing for me at this time.
Okay, Chris?
Yes, a few things that I'd like to point out. Number one, just a reminder that this is, you have neighbors here, John, so we need to be conscious of that in terms of your lighting, landscaping. We really need to, I think we need to do something to beef up the landscaping. We took a lot of big old trees out of there, so we need to somehow figure out a way to kind of make up for that, if you will. We can't bring back those old trees, but we can do something to help enhance the landscaping along the way. And then lastly, the 10-foot wide stalls. I wasn't sure. I'm not that wild or crazy about the 10-foot wide stalls, parking stalls. I thought we should maybe consider pushing it up to the 12-foot standard throughout the industry. But those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Don?
Yeah, just to clarify on the 12-foot stalls, those are parking stalls we're talking about? Or I thought we were talking about docks at one point.
Commissioner Aldani, this is Carrie. What we're talking about are the truck trailer stalls. So on the south, where my cursor is, can you see that? Those 52 stalls are proposed for trailers. They're proposed to be 10 feet wide. Now, a standard car stall is 9 feet wide. Every other trailer parking stall that we have seen brought before the city is 12 feet wide. And that's kind of the industry minimum as far as we can tell. It's usually somewhere between 12 and 15 feet, actually. So we are recommending that they be a minimum of 12 feet wide.
Yeah, I know some of those drivers can be pretty good. I mean, but yeah, other than the sake of squeezing in as many spots as possible, has there been a reason why they've gone so narrow on those?
Yeah, they gain extra spots. They pick up 104 feet by cutting 2 off each spot. That's what they do. So
No,
I'm not in favor of the 10-foot. I'll tell you right now when it gets to me.
Yeah, I get that. I was just wondering if there's been, I mean, other than, it has to be just for squeezing as many spots as possible. And I mean, let's give these guys a break. That's pretty tight, especially when you have to put one trailer in between 2 existing trailers. I don't know. I like the recommendation that Carrie's given them for widening those back out. I don't know if they're going to work together to come up with the perfect number, but boy, that seems tight to me. That's my only comment.
Okay, thanks, Don. Gets me to Fred.
Yeah, I agree with Don. I'm a little concerned about the truck parking. And if you try to jam those trucks in there, it just creates problems down the road. The other question I have on the trucking is, are they permanently putting trucks back there and keeping them until they need them, or what is the usage for those trucks parking?
Applicant, any question, any answer?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on audio.
That's okay. John, question was, is that trailer storage? Are they in and out? Are they gonna be there long term? What's going
No,
on with them?
not long term. They're in and out. But this is a pretty common feature. For example, the Dickman property that you were reviewing a couple of weeks ago. It is for the exact same use. And we're very happy to switch it to the 12-foot width that Carrie mentioned. I apologize, it's not on this drawing, but Carrie, I did hear your comments from the prior meeting with you, and I authorized them to be switched to 12 feet. I'm sorry that you have not gotten feedback from our engineer.
Oh, that's fine, John. Thank you so much.
Okay, Fred, you still have the floor.
No, that's it. That's the only questions I had.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that ends that on the 12-foot discussion, so.
Yeah, it clears it up. Chauncey?
I do have a question for the applicant. Can you provide more information in regards to the landscaping to address the screening issues or concerns?
Absolutely. We're first of all happy to work with Carrie to address the concerns. Just one point, Carrie, the group of, I believe it was 5 trees on the western, on the freeway side, and wow, you are fast with that. I wish I was half that fast. That you were mentioning that the elevation was lower than a point on the building. That actually, I'm happy to say, is not a dock. That's a ramp up to the level of the floor. The docks will actually be about 4 feet lower than that. However, if you would like a change in the trees or vegetation, we're happy to work with you. Furthermore, I understand what you're saying about native grasses can be mistaken as weeds. I did like the idea of native vegetation being there, but once again, we're very happy to work with you to modify that to meet the city's needs.
Okay, thank you. And then one additional question about the entrance coverings. Can you provide a little more information about that? If it's the castings or you're going to have canopies?
Absolutely, thank you. And Carrie, if you could go 1 or 2 more drawings to the rendering, possibly in the corner, another 1 or 2, possibly 1 more, maybe one more. I'm so sorry. There we go. A very nice rendering. It does extend beyond the facade of the building. I do like the look of them, but we'd be happy to work if something else would be needed. But yes, it absolutely cantilevers off of the building, providing some cover and shade.
So just to clarify, I'm sorry, John, Doug Seymour, Director of Community Development. At each of the tenant entrances, there would be that same canopy feature?
My understanding is, Doug, that it's at the 2 main entrances at either end. I'm not sure if it's at the mid entrance. It could be. I don't know. I know it's at either end.
Hey, John, this is Matt. Hey, our intention was to provide.
Matt, can you identify yourself?
Yeah,
name
sorry
and
about
address
that.
for the record.
Matt Mano, 215 North Water Street, Suite 250, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53202. We're the architect for the project. So the intent is we would put the canopies over the east and west ends of the building. And then in the middle of the building, there's a larger glass element. And our intent is to put a canopy over that also. So based on Doug's comments in regards to providing canopies at the main entrances, we did add those to the drawings.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And maybe
Matt.
while I'm still here, and I don't want to, barge in on anyone's time here, but can you just clarify again what the structural elements are for the proposed dock screening?
Yeah, so on 13th Street right now, we are intending to put a precast wall adjacent to the drive-in door drive lane as part of our discussions with Doug. That wall will probably be about, if I had to guess, probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 feet. It all just depends on the grades and stuff like that, but we intend to put that a screen wall there. We also did add some landscaping over in that area. I know that's something that the city has wanted us to do. And so I know one of the things we had shown to Doug and Carrie was a landscape plan kind of showing what it looks like, in a few years type of thing. So, the trees that we've selected typically have a quicker growth pattern. So I think that stuff will start filling in quicker than we think. It's not going to take 20 years. I would say with less than 10, it will fill out with those trees.
All right, thank you.
Joss, you still have the floor. You got other questions as well?
That was all of my questions. Thanks.
Okay. Guess it's coming back to me. Before I go, Mike, Havey, you still with us? Concerns out of fire, access. What do you got? Anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'm Mike Havey from Fire. So we did work with one of the project managers, and also engineering was very helpful in designing the turnaround so that our fire department apparatus can navigate through that north section of the turnaround. So we got that resolved on no other concerns.
Okay, thank you. Canopy questions were addressed, but now you kind of brought up you're going to have a glass element in the middle of the building. Can we see a rendering?
We didn't shoot a rendering of that area directly. I'm trying to think. Yeah, sorry, the trees are in the way. If you go to the front elevation, you can see it's a fairly large glass area. I think if you have to go back to the north elevations, Carrie.
That'll be on both the north and south side?
Just the north elevation. So it's kind of unfortunately where we put our split line on the top elevation where the orange line is vertical. As you can see, we've got about 32 feet of glass.
Okay.
So fairly substantial entry.
And we'll catch canopy over that as well. So.
Correct. Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Dumpsters, where are you guys putting dumpsters? We talked about parking spaces, everything else. There's got to be dumpsters, and where are they getting picked up and how are we going to hide them?
Dumpsters are on the backside right now. They're located in the middle of the building, just to the west of the drive-in doors that Carrie just highlighted. The one thing I would tell you is right now we've got those shown up at finished grade. I think we've changed that, so that's going to be at -4. So those should be more hidden from 13th Street.
Okay. Carrie, do they get screened? We zone this business park. What happens in a business park?
So because they're in the middle of the loading dock, you're probably not going to see them unless there's a gap in the landscaping that's on the south side. So from the east and the west, you're not going to see the enclosure at all. And they're going to be precast walls to match the building. It should blend in. And Matt, I apologize. I'm not sure if you mentioned what the gate would be.
I did not. Typically, we just use like a poly wood on the front of it, just as an opaque surface to hide the dumpster corrals behind there.
Okay, gotcha. And then just kind of going back to that screen wall, I take it that's by the main glass entrance. What's really the purpose of it? Is it just people gonna go out there? You're gonna have a picnic table for people to sit? What's the big significance of this wall and that it's 10 feet tall?
It was a request of Doug
grade.
Seymour to provide additional screening or privacy from 13th Street to the loading docks and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, understood. That's clear. Thank you. It gets us back to the landscaping. Guys caused a lot of heartburn when you came in here and you ripped everything out of there, even though most of it would have went anyways. I've had more calls about this property and how it got ripped up and started before anything was approved and the whole thing. So landscape wise, before we approve anything, you guys kind of got off on the wrong foot here, at least with me, because I've been taking heat over this like you wouldn't believe. And again, I get it, building this size, a lot of those trees were going, but the landscape plan has to really be beefed up. You know, we kind of compared it to the Dickman property. Last Dickman property was substantially landscaped. I went by this property on 94 this week, and it is wide open from the expressway. I mean, there's nothing shielding it. So from the west, it's really got to look like something, I believe, and from 13th as well. So how do we ensure that from a staff standpoint that we adequately get the landscaping we need? What can you guys do to convince me it's going to be done and it's going to be adequate to what our staff believes is needed?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Doug Seymour once again. I mean, I think given the sensitivity, and rightfully so, to the landscaping, and it was kind of called out in the staff report, I think it'd be entirely appropriate for the commission to have this come back to them for approval of that landscaping plan.
I would agree, Doug. I'm glad staff is on it and agrees, but I do think it should come back here again for another look. So that's really about all my comments that I have. Christine covered the traffic and Matt was on that one. So I guess that's it. Is there any more discussion or question?
Yes, this is Christine. I have questions. Since there is a lot of confusion and concerns with the landscape, if this is going to come back to us here, can we have a public meeting associated with this so a member of the public can come back and look at it and comment?
This is Carrie.
Qualify.
This is Carrie. If the Plan Commission wishes to include a condition of approval that requires the landscape plan come back to the commission, it would be a public meeting.
I'm saying public hearing, not public meeting. I don't want to more.
Well, it wouldn't be a hearing because the landscape plan wouldn't require a hearing. It would be a public meeting just like what we have tonight.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And just a suggestion, so I'm not sure what others thinks about that.
Okay. I'm sure we'll get to where we need to be. Just emphasizing the point because I got calls from last Friday on this. People are still pretty hacked off.
Hey, Mayor, this is Matt.
Yeah.
With the owner. The one thing I would say is to date, you know, we've really worked with staff with Doug and Carrie on massaging this design to date. So, you know, we have no issues continuing to work with them. So, however you guys see fit, if we can work with staff and massage the landscape plans and do it that way, or if you guys want us to work with them and then come back through
I think, you know, Matt,
I think we're fine.
Continue to work with staff and then, you know, bring it back by here for one last look. Again, if I'm going to take the phone calls, I at least want to have the responsibility of saying I voted for it or I didn't.
Okay.
That's
we
legit.
We can work on that.
Yeah, if I'm going to get yelled at, it can, you know, at least it can be my own fault.
I agree with you, Mr.
No
Mayor.
offense to staff, because my staff doesn't make mistakes.
I agree
So,
with you, Mr. Mayor.
Um,
I've gotten plenty of calls too.
yeah, it was sensitive.
Yes.
It really was. But again, I think the way the building was positioned, and really, if you go back, you don't have to go back, Carrie, but if you go back to the original plan, it shows the trees. There was just little borders of them, actually. I don't want to point to other properties, but there's been other situations where more was lost. But anyways, I don't want to beat a dead horse. So are there any other questions or comments before we move from motion?
Mr. Mayor, I actually have one. If
Go ahead, Carrie.
If the Plan Commission is going to be directing that the applicant bring the landscape plans back for Plan Commission review, we would need to set a date for that for future review. Do we want to do 2 weeks? Do we want to do 4 weeks, allow some time? That would be direction that staff would be asking for.
It depends on the workload of the staff and what's capable. I'd hate to put an unrealistic expectation on you.
The next agenda, I will warn the Plan Commission, is actually quite long. I don't want to prolong this review any longer than it needs to be, obviously, but if we wanted to do the first meeting in April, that would give some additional time for, revisions of plans and things like that. Because if we were going to put this on for the very next meeting, we would need to turn around the landscape plan pretty quickly. In fact, I would probably need plans by no later than like Tuesday. So that's something for consideration.
Matt, oh, go ahead, Carrie.
No, I was just going to ask the same question.
Matt,
Yeah,
would you be able to turn around the landscape plans to address all of the concerns that were brought forward here?
Yeah, I think the big thing is if we can get, in front of Carrie and Doug in the next day or two, I don't think that's a problem.
Thank you, Matt.
Carrie, I'll defer to you and Doug. Your workloads, so.
We'll keep it open, and we'll schedule it as we can. Instead of including that in the condition, we'll just leave it open.
Yeah, Matt, the one thing you guys can do that will expedite the process will to give us complete information about the easements that exist along 13th Street and what can and cannot be planted within those easements.
Okay. I think we have some direction there. If there's no other discussions, questions, comments.
Yeah, I have a question.
Motion.
Just for Carrie, do we have to address those truck parking stalls in the motion? I know John gave us his word, but I don't know if we need to address it on paper at all.
There can be a condition added that the truck parking stalls are a minimum width of 12 feet.
And that's certainly acceptable to me. Thank you, Carrie and Commissioner.
Great. Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay. We will look for a motion.
Okay. Guzikowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plans submitted by John Schluter, Frontline Commercial LLC for the property at 9141 South 13th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements are in effect. 2, that all landscape plans are revised to incorporate staff comments, screening, and legibility and code compliance. 3, that all plans are revised to include canopies over tenant entrance. 4, that all plans are revised to include locations of all mechanicals, transformers, and utilities. All mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes shall be screened from view. 5, that all light sources are shielded and directed downward. And the color temperature of the fixtures are limited to a maximum of 3,500 kelvins. And the light source adjacent to the single family residential areas are shielded on the side of the fixture adjacent to the residential area. 6, that all detailed master plan is reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission prior to submission of sign permit application. 7, that all detailed plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission for permit applications. And 8, that all truck stalls shall be a minimum of 12 foot wide.
Alderman Guzekowski, did you also want to include a condition that the landscape plan is revised and brought for Plan Commission review and approval prior to submission of building permits?
Yes, as so noted, if that works for everyone else.
Yes.
And I would second.
Okay, roll call, starting with Commissioner Seipert.
Seipert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, I.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Okay, that does it for our agenda. Before we move to adjourn, just a couple things to bring to your attention. The communities of St. Francis, Cudahy, South Milwaukee, and Oak Creek today officially opened the South Shore Vaccination Clinic. It is located in Cudahy at the old Kmart site. That's just off College Avenue and Packard Avenue. It has been renovated. They can do 800 to 1,000 shots a day as long as they get the vaccines in. The communities are moving forward on a vaccination plan. So please, if you haven't registered and you intend to get a shot, please go out there and register with one of those cities so you can get your turn there. In the meantime, please just follow all the CDC rules as our numbers are going in the right direction. And looks like there's some light at the end of the tunnel on that. The one other thing I want to bring to attention is March is International Women's Month. And March 8th was actually International Women's Day. We missed it by a day. But I really wanted to point out this group here because we've had some long-term female members here that have really helped in the development of this city. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your participation. Over a third of this commissioners are female. And again, I don't want to take anything away. Carrie helps lead this, another very strong woman that's helping develop this city. And there's countless other engineers and our ASA pool. Without a doubt, our society could not function without your contributions. So it is your month and it's your day. And on behalf of the city of Oak Creek, I'd like to thank you all for taking part in helping develop our city. So hats off to you, ladies.
Woohoo, thank you.
So, and with that, Chris, you want to do a plug for the Goosey Hunt?
Sure. On May 23rd, Sunday, we're having our inaugural Goosey's Hunt for a Cure. If you don't know, I have Huntington's disease. We found out this at the end of last year. So we're working for a cure because there's not a cure. So we are currently have 350 people signed up, and we've got some great sponsorships that are coming online. If you go to www.gooseys5k.run, you can sign up there or donate if you'd like. So thank you.
Excellent. And with the warm weather, Thoughts of the Farmers Market comes up. We're a few months away, but Dawn, official start date?
June 12th.
June 12th this year. So we'll all be looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And of course, we have the egg hunt and other things coming up. We'll give you some reminders as we move along. So we're starting to get back to where we need to be a little bit. So with that, we'll move for adjournment.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 7:55.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, starting with Commissioner Chandler.
Chandler, I.
Christine?
And I, sorry, I'm going backward.
Sullivan, I.
Grillo, I.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week and enjoy the weekend. We will see you in 2 weeks, right?